This is Survival Stuff with Indiana Jim. Indiana Jones was taken. My name is James C. Jones. I write books under that title of James C. Jones, but thought it was a little pretentious for this particular medium. So we're going to be going with Survival Stuff with Indiana Jim. We've made several video programs already. Today we're going to finish the series where we started with the 10 principles of survival. We covered the first 5. We're going to cover the last 5 today. Just to let you know, by way of self-introduction, if you haven't seen any of our other videos, I am the founder of Live Free USA. I'm the author of a number of books published by Skyhorse Publishing in New York. You can also get those books on Amazon. The Ultimate Book of Survival Gear just came out. Advanced Survival, which was my first book. Total Survival and 150 Survival Secrets. I'm also working now on the Prepper's Guide to First Aid, or Prepper's First Aid Handbook, which will come out in 2022. I'm a certified EMT. I'm a certified safety manager. A whole bunch of other, most of my friends will agree I'm certifiable. At any rate, I've been teaching survival for over 50 years. Live Free was founded in 1968. It's a nonprofit tax-deductible corporation. Our website is at americansurvivor.org. Our mission is to advocate and educate for individual and family emergency preparedness and self-reliance. We've been at this for a lot longer than before the word survivalist was around, before the word prepper was around. We were doing this. I like to call us self-reliance or preparedness advocates and practitioners. Our belief is that self-reliant families are the foundation of a free society. Membership is $20. You can join online, $50 for 3 years. You can download all the back issues of our newsletter on that, or we can actually mail you our newsletter every 2 months. It comes out. And by the way, this is the oldest survival-related publication in the country, again, back to 1960s. So we're very proud of that. We've been at this for a long, long time. We've out-survived pretty much every other survival organization or preparedness organization in the country, probably the world. But anyhow, there are also formed chapters. We support Live Free chapters, which are survival groups that practice within their community. Sometimes they do educational stuff. Sometimes they just stay internal. But we support those chapters. And if you join, you'll have access to a lot of different publications that are on the website. We're also trying to build a American Survival Education Center. So if anybody out there has got $1 million laying around, or 50,000, or some land, hey, we'd like to hear from you. So anyhow, we're going to get into the last 5 of the 10 principles of survival. Now, just by way of review, the first 5 were anticipate, which means anticipate, like we anticipated the pandemic. Those of us that were really in the know, we did anticipate a pandemic is the most mathematically likely thing to happen, but we anticipate other kinds of things. And we also anticipated that if one bad thing happened, there's a domino effect and other things will happen, and you've certainly seen that. We anticipate that. If I'm out on the street or if I'm on the expressway, I can anticipate that semi up there is going back and forth because it's a windy day, and I can anticipate something bad is going to happen. You need to constantly be anticipating short-term and long-term. We talked about that in more detail in the first program. Be aware. And again, gathering information, always constantly, whether you're walking down the street and you're being aware of things around you, or you're aware of things that are happening in the world or in your community, what kind of crimes are happening. I talked about, did I get the Crime Watch report? I'm a member of that group in my community. What kind of crimes are happening? Okay, I need to put my car in the garage because there's a lot of car break-ins going on lately. But if I'm not aware of that, I leave my car outside, So awareness. If you're aware of the unstable nature of our economy, the unstable nature of our society, and we should constantly be aware of that. Be here now. Again, basically anticipate, be aware, and be here now all sort of fit together, the three of them. Be here now means be in the moment, be thinking about what's happening around you, whether you're on the street, at your job. Don't be daydreaming, don't be not watching where you're going, don't be have your nose stuck in that cell phone or those earbuds in your ear and you're listening to some music when you shouldn't be. Those are things to be done at home or when you're in a safe setting, but not, otherwise, we need to always be here now, be in the moment. You're out in the woods, watch where you're putting your feet. You don't want to step on a trip, you break your ankle in the woods, it's a lot worse than if you break your ankle at home. But those kind of things. Stay calm. And we talked about staying calm and how to stay calm. We talked about a breathing exercise where you inhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you wait 4 seconds, and you do that 3 or 4 times. You get that adrenaline level down, that carbon dioxide level in your blood all regulated a little bit so you can calmly make good decisions. Evaluate, and we're doing that constantly in our newsletter. We do a thing called the threat matrix, and we look at the 10 most likely threats. By the way, the epidemic is still right up there near the top. No less likely to happen next year than it was 2 years ago. One epidemic does not affect the likelihood of another epidemic. But our society is weaker now from that one, so it'll be worse. But anyhow, you need to evaluate all your situations. What have I got? What can I do? What's the most likely, what's the first thing I have to take care of? All those kind of things. Evaluate the situation. So those were the first, anticipate, be aware, be here now, stay calm, and evaluate the first 5 that we talked about in more detail if you check out the other video that we made. The next 6 are do the next right thing, take control, have what you need, use what you have, and do what is necessary. And we're going to talk about those in a little more detail today. So the first thing is do the next right thing. Now that makes pretty much sense, but lots of times people do the next wrong thing, okay? You don't want to get overwhelmed by a bad situation and make a bad decision. You do the one next right thing. I'm developing a first aid book right now, and I have procedures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't, skip that. Like CPR. Somebody's having a heart attack. What's the next right thing to do? Well, first next right thing is not to run around the house or even start CPR. The next right thing is to call 911, get help coming on the way. And the next right thing after that may be to send somebody to get an AED. The next right thing after that is to do CPR. You can do those real quick. Okay, so what's the next right thing? In any situation, whether you're lost in the woods, the next right thing, stop and try to orient yourself. The next right thing is not to just run around in circles. So the next right thing, no matter what, do the next right thing. For instance, good example of that is a scenario, and one of the things you can learn from is reading survival stories about what people went through. Guy didn't tell anybody where he was going. He's up on a mountain. He falls into a 25-foot deep crevice in the snow in a blizzard. Nobody knows they're not going to miss him. They're not going to send anybody out for him. He's at the bottom of this crevice, and he's broken one arm. Real situation. What's the next right thing? Get to that next little foothold there, and the next handhold with the one hand you've got that's good, and move up a few feet off the bottom. Then look around and see if you can find the next one, and then the next one. Do the next right thing. Don't, you can't, if he took out the whole thing of how many steps he'd have to get just to get out of there, and how hard it would be to get back down to the lodge, he probably would have panicked and not succeeded. But he didn't do that. He just did the next right thing. So you don't want to get overwhelmed by whatever your situation is. I mean, I had a flood. I get home, water's coming up the street toward my house. There's a big flood. The dikes had broken. The next right thing was to start getting things up out of the basement, and out of especially valuable things up out of the basement. That was the next right thing. The next right thing after that was to put my extra pump in place. The next right thing after that was to put, in case the water got overwhelming, to put the most valuable stuff in my truck so I could move everything that I needed. And by the way, I had most of the survival stuff and the main items in waterproof tote bins. So I was able to put those in and then put the last items in a couple of empty waterproof tote bins that I had for just that kind of a thing. But do the next right thing. The economy is on the verge of collapse. There's all kinds of other kinds of climate shift situations which are really happening. I'm seeing it today. I mean, today is May and it's 47 degrees out. Okay, things are happening. I have to be ready for these things. I have extra firewood. I have all kinds of other things. Next right thing. Focus on taking the one step at a time. Examples of this are, for instance, you're out in the woods in the rain. The next right thing is not to build a fire. The next right thing is to stay dry, okay? Number one survival rule in the woods or outdoors, don't get wet, okay? Don't get wet trying to start a fire. Stay dry, okay? So do the next right thing. So have the stuff that you'll need. Examples, put away for the economy, put away trade goods, maybe shift your job situation if the economy is going to get bad. Have a critical skill that people will need even if the economy falls apart. Develop a plan for getting by, maybe a garden, all kinds of other things, vegetable garden, how to can food, those kind of things. Those next right things that you're going to need to do in the event of an economic collapse. So that's number 6. Survival principle number 7, take control. You got this, okay? You have to take control. One of our mantras is, don't let things happen to you, happen to things, and preferably happen to those things before they happen, okay? And again, as I mentioned, these rules apply to everyday life and your whole life in general. When you let things happen to you and you're, oh, bad things happen to me. Well, yes, bad things happen to everybody. Crap happens, okay? I can tell you a lot of things have happened to me, okay? But, anticipating them and then happening to them, preparedness is really happening to problems before they happen to you. So that's the key to preparedness. And, as things start happening, you start to make a plan. I'm going to happen to this situation. What am I going to do about this situation? I lived in Chicago on the South Side, occasionally encountered scary situations on the street, and boom, 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 right away, things are going like, well, if that happens, this is what I'm going to do. If that happens, this is what I'm going to do. This is my situation. You have to take control. You own this. You got this, okay? You got this. This is my place. This is my situation. This is what I know. And by the way, you can increase that and give yourself a lot more options. This is what I can do. You increase your skills. This is what I have with me, which you talk about gear and equipment. And I talk about that in one of my books, The Ultimate Guide to Survival Gear, that's out now. But you got this. You build your knowledge, build your capabilities, but you need to take control. You need to own this situation because nobody else is going to own it for you. And you're lost in the woods. There's an old saying, you are never lost because you know where you're at. Yeah, everybody else doesn't know where I'm at, okay? And I don't know where this is to get from here to there, but I own this part of the woods. This is it. I own it. I'm going to build a shelter. I'm going to, start a fire. I'm going to do, different things I need to do to survive because I'm taking control of this situation. Number 8, have what you need, okay? And I just finished doing a book, The Ultimate Book of Survival Gear. This is the cover. I haven't even seen the book yet. They're coming pretty soon, but it is in publication. But I realized that after 50 years, I had a lot of stuff. Tremendous. I got like 12 stoves. I got 6 different packs. I got, 10 different first aid kits. Don't even talk about weapons and other stuff like that. But anyhow, point is that need to have what you need, and you can determine from all the other steps, evaluate and all that, anticipate. You can sort of anticipate, have what you need, and remember, it's what you have with you that counts, not what you have somewhere else or at home. So we talk about home preparedness and home kits, and in my books, especially in Total Survival, but also in the newsletter, the Live Free newsletter, American Survivor. And on our website, there are lists. In fact, we call it survival lists. Get it? Survival lists? Okay. At any rate, we have the Get Home Pack. What you need to keep in your vehicle or in your office. So if you can't do anything else, if you have to walk home, a disaster, the transportation's down, the roads are blocked and everything, you have a little Get Home Pack. You have a massive, big evacuation pack. By the way, if you're going to make an evacuation pack, make sure you can actually carry it a few miles at a time. So I've seen some survival packs that, I'm an older guy now. I'm not going to carry a 75-pound pack 10 miles into the out back. Okay, so you start trimming this down and put more up here. The more you have up here, the less you have to have in your pack. But nevertheless, you have to have what you need, and you can look at these lists. It's better to make sure you have things with you. Now, toilet paper was a good example of that. It was one of the things that people didn't think about. They had their big backpack and they're going to head out to the woods, but they didn't think about, what if I have to dig in and stay home for a long time? And it was sort of funny. And then some people said, well, I have toilet paper. Well, again, reading about past disasters, in Leningrad, when the Germans surrounded Leningrad, and of course the communists assured everybody that there would be no problem, the party would take care of them. And of course the Germans surrounded Leningrad, it was cut off for a whole year, they couldn't get anything in or out. There's really a lot to be learned from those kind of stories. But one quote that a woman made in one of the interviews was, "It's good to have diamond bracelet, it's better to have toilet paper." And it's, so I sort of thought about that is, yeah, it is, the items, valuable items change a lot. So you have what you need. And then, we talked about, what you need in the bedside drawer when something happens in the middle of the night, what to have in your pockets when you're out on the street and something happens. We talk about what to have in your vehicle. In my books, we have, the vehicle survival kits. Those things you need to have handy at all times. And then the other thing is use what you have. Okay? So improvise. MacGyver, you think like MacGyver. Be able to improvise, because sometimes we don't have the exact thing we need for the specific problem. For one thing, like we used to have survival games with the survival groups, and we'd put a bunch of junk, coat hanger wire, piece of tape, string, rope, all kinds of, coffee filters and all kinds of odds and ends into a box, and then we give each member a card, and it says you have to make a water filter, you have to make a weapon, you have to make a animal snare, you have to make a respirator, you have to make some first aid item or bandages or whatever, and you have to reach in this box and get all this junk and make those things. You have to have that skill. It's a long lost skill nowadays. We have so many things that are specifically made for one purpose, and they're great if you got them. If you don't, you're going to have to improvise. Like I talked about bandanas. Everybody's got these great tourniquet devices now, and they are great. Okay, but you're not likely to carry them all the time. But bandanas, you can use it to wipe your forehead. You can use it to cover your mouth in a respirator. You can use it as a bandage. You can use it as an emergency flag. And yes, we always teach people how to make a tourniquet using their bandana, okay, or any other piece of cloth, okay. So many things can become tools and weapons. It's a little mental game you can play. Well, if this happens, what can I use as a weapon to defend myself with? What can I use as a device to escape with? What can I use as a device to communicate with? All those kind of things. Yeah, that's the way survivalists think, okay? Imagine that what you could do with the things around you, it's a little play game you can play, or like I say, you can also have this junk game where there's a bunch of junk in a box. What am I going to do with this? Well, you got to make this respirator. You got to make a shelter. You have to make a bandaging. You have to make a splint, whatever. Those are the things that you should be able to do. Use what you have when you don't always have what you need. Number 10 is very important. Do what is necessary. And under survival conditions, under emergency situations, sometimes we have to do things we really don't want to do. I'm an EMT, and like you have to deal with blood, you have to deal with vomit, you have to deal with horrible smells, you have to deal with all kinds of things. You get soaked, you fall in the river in the middle of cold weather with some other people. You're going to have to get naked. You got to get that wet clothes off. How embarrassing, no matter how embarrassing it is, you're going to have to take everything off. You don't worry about your personal prejudices, your pride, your fears, your embarrassment. Those all have to go out the window under a survival situation. This is very, very important that you steel yourself to be able to do those kind of things. We all live a very comfortable life. We tend to be able to avoid tough decisions. We tend to be able to get by. Now, I had a pretty rough life. I had a lot of tough decisions. Not bad decisions, but tough decisions. Our mental programming is all full of fears and all those prejudices and all that kind of thing. You have to get rid of those things and make decision to do what is necessary. A good example of that is that fellow that was trapped. Rocks moved around and they trapped his hand and arm, and he went off the trail, which he shouldn't have done. Didn't tell people where he was going. People were looking for him, but they're looking in the wrong place. And he was there for days and days, trapped, and he couldn't get out. So finally he had to make the decision to cut off his hand, put a tourniquet on it to some extent, cut off his hand to escape and survive as a human being and live, and that was a horrible decision. Some of you have had pets and you had to make that decision. They get sick and you have to put them down. That's that kind of decisions, hopefully you'll make that. I've seen people that didn't make that decision and let the pet suffer. That's bad. I really hate that. But there's all kinds of things you may have to do in a survival situation. You may have to abandon certain things or abandon even certain people in order to save other people or save lives. You may have to burn your favorite furniture just to stay warm. All kinds of things that you may have to do. So one of the key things in survival principles is do what is necessary. Make the hard choices and commit. Now, that was 10 principles of survival. But there is an 11th, of course. There has to be an 11th, right? It's never give up. I've studied survival situations over and over and over again, and I've had some things in my own life that I can tell you about. The will to survive is critical. People commit suicide all the time just because they couldn't play basketball for a whole season during the COVID-19 epidemic, or somebody dissed them on internet or something like that, and now they got to commit suicide. Obviously, they don't have the will to survive. You need to have the will to survive to get through it. And no matter how bad it gets, you'll be surprised that there's totally no way out of this. We're doomed. There's no way that this is going to be better. But you do all these other things that I just talked about on the principles, and you hang in there, and guess what? Disasters come out of nowhere. Saviors come out of nowhere too. There's bad luck and there's good luck. Okay, so you hang in there. You hang in there until things get better. Till you see an opportunity. Look at that. There's something. Somebody came to help me. Or, hey, I just see an opening. I can get out of here. You'd be surprised at the kind of things that will happen if you hang in there. One of the important things is to have a mission in life. Hopefully all of you have a mission. Do you know what you're trying to do in life? Or you're just going through the motions and not paying attention? You have to have in fact, that everybody, today, go and write down your mission. my mission in life is to, do this and this, raise my children, help my community, be a better person, whatever you want in the mission. But you should have a written mission of what your life is about. I've heard people say they spent their whole life climbing the ladder of success, only to realize they climbed the wrong ladder. They got to some place when they were 67 years old, and I was like, I didn't really do anything. I made a lot of money, big deal, but I didn't really make any difference in the world, So, you think about, sometimes one of the things, I think it was Stephen Covey said, think about what you'd like people to say at your funeral, and then work toward making that happen. By the way, I want people to say, look, he's still alive. But anyhow, so much for that. But anyhow, do have a personal mission. When you have that mission, because animals survive out of instinct, humans survive for a reason. And I can tell you many, many stories of people that got in survival situations and just gave up and sat there and died when there was all kinds of available food and shelter and things if they just really tried or put their mind to it. So don't be that person that gives up. Have that mission. So think about writing a mission statement, okay? That it's worthy of you and worthy of your society. So those are the important things. It's not the end of the world. It may be the end of the world as we know it, depending on things happening. The world as we know it is always coming to an end. But we have time to learn and prepare and adapt. We can make the world as we would like to have it, at least for ourselves, for our community, and be responsible for our actions. Some of the things that are going to happen, and by the way, I wrote these things down in 2005. Okay, again, anticipating, and I'm going to read these off. Increased severity of frequency of natural and man-made disasters. Is that true? Sure it is. Mathematically, everybody knows that. Okay. Ineffectuality and bankrupt government services. Again, all these things are constantly drawing away. All that money that they gave away during the COVID-19, that's out of the economy now. Fire departments, police departments are all short of funds, and it's not going to get better. It's going to wind up more and more on the individual. Unrest among unemployed and on welfare. You notice that, huh? Okay, again, wrote 2005. Increased activity of extremist groups and criminal organizations. Again, predicted it, awareness, there it is. And this is continuing to increase more and more. The internet is making it even worse because, as I mentioned earlier in one of my other videos, when you go on and you check out a survivalist website, that's good. But then the logarithms in the internet systems and the Facebook will take you to another little more extreme survivalists, and then the doomsday guys, and then the conspiracy guys, and it'll take you down that route because that thinks that that's what you're interested in. It will never let you look at a balanced, situation. So I hope we're trying to correct that a little bit, but nevertheless, it's making us more and more divided. Everybody's in this little thing, these little tribes, because that's what the internet does to them. Abandonment of the inner cities. Wow, well, do we see that? Yeah, probably in 2005 no one could see that, but we're definitely seeing that now. Increased prices and shortages of fuel, water, food, natural gas, electricity, and everything. That will be a very slow process in most cases, but it's definitely inevitable as we get bigger and bigger populations and less supplies. So, you have a finite amount of resources and an infinitely growing population. I did mention, and this is happening, years and years ago, somebody said, well, what's going to happen? And I said, well, the population, and this is not just me, it's scientists predicted this, the population is growing so fast that eventually the Earth won't be able to support that, and then Mother Nature will take care of that problem, and it won't be pretty. And we're starting to see that now. It could be wars, it could be revolutions, it could be epidemics, pandemics, all these kind of things. In fact, they're all kind of happening now. And unfortunately, I'm not happy about that, but we predicted it and we're kind of ready for it. Your mission really is to prepare to meet both these talked about acute disasters where they happen to maybe just you, or they happen real fast, like an explosion, nuclear war, those kind of things. Be prepared to deal with those. Be prepared. Home safety is an important thing too. Don't forget, if your house burns down and all your survival stuff burns down, it's a big disaster for you, and this is what we're talking about. So you have to be safe. If you get seriously injured or your health issues are bad, that's survival too. It's not just I've seen people with these big backpack and they're smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's going to kill you faster than you're ever going to need that backpack if you can carry it at all. So your health is an important issue, okay? And we cover that throughout my books and throughout my lectures. But anyhow, both those acute disasters and of course prepare and build yourself up to be able to survive the chronic disasters, which we're talking about. Changes in the climate, more epidemics, civil unrest, national division, China and Russia, the biggest anti-freedom, racist countries in the world are becoming more powerful, and we are becoming less powerful, and that's a problem that we'll all have to face. Prepare the next generation, for God's sake. You got children, grandchildren. This is your mission. You can see my mission is to prepare the next generation to stay alive, obviously. But another thing is, life without freedom is not worth living. That's another one of my philosophies, and I hope it's yours. So you want to be able to stay alive. You want to be able to keep your friends alive, keep the good people alive, and you want to stay free. And that is part of your mission. Preserve the values values of respect and responsibility and independence that are our American values. We want to preserve those, not give them up to become on welfare and being taken care of. That never works. So your mission is to save your family, save your community, and then of course save the future for the future generations. So again, this is Indiana Jim. If you have any questions or suggestions for me to do new programs, you can reach me at survivorjj@aol.com or go to the Live Free website at www.americansurvivor.org. So until next time, this is Indiana Jim for Life and Freedom. Stay safe out there.